Agat Ceann Comhairle Taoiseach, more evidence emerges every day of the consequences of the housing emergency happening on your government's watch. Earlier this week, Galway Chamber warned how business is struggling to keep doors open while staff have nowhere to live, and today a survey of businesses from the Dublin Chamber also found that a lack of affordable housing is the biggest struggle that they face. The housing crisis is hitting people from all sides, and rising mortgage rates are putting huge pressure on people's finances as they struggle to keep on top of hike after hike. Last month, as you know, the European Central Bank increased its main lending rate for the 6th time since July of last year, with the prospect of more increases coming down the tracks. And these hikes mean taking a hit of thousands of euros a year for many, with some now paying interest rates as high as 8%. These are colossal sums of money and totally unaffordable for people on ordinary incomes. This barrage of mortgage interest hikes comes in the middle of a cost of living crisis, with people already to the pin of their collar as they struggle to keep on top of their bills. And don't just take my word for it, Taoiseach. The Free Legal Advice Centre have warned that people are at risk now of falling into arrears, while the budgeting service MABS has warned that these hikes are having disastrous effects. Hike after hike has left mortgage holders at their wits' end, and they're anxious that they won't be able to make their finances stretched. So people are left struggling with crippling rents, rising house prices due to your government's failure to deliver affordable housing. And people need help, Taoiseach, and they need it now. Yet your government sits on its hands. There is ample room within the public finances to help. This is about choices, and you have a choice facing you now. Last night, as you know, the Dáil debated Sinn Féin's proposal to provide relief to homeowners hit by rising interest rates. And I want to emphasise that these are tailored, targeted and time-limited supports that will be a life raft for people who need them. Our proposal would support struggling mortgage holders by up to €1,500. They are sensible, necessary measures. And the Dáil will vote on this Sinn Féin proposal this evening, so it is decision time. Your government can and must act with urgency. Remember, in opposition, Minister for Finance Michael McGrath was fully committed to mortgage interest relief, and that's what he must deliver now in government. Ní mór ag an rialtas gníomhú inis lena cinnsiú go bhfaigheann únairí faoi sibh ríthóbhachtach ó bhéadthe ús bhór gáistí. Tá moltaí sandartha, teoranta ó thaobh ama, leagtha amach ag Sinn Féin. Anocht ag takeú lenar moltaí is féidir len tacaíocht a thuirt de únairí a airíonn go bhfuil sé sáinnithe agus iad ag stracailt le gréim a cuineáil faoin vehicle. Taoiseach, every mortgage interest rate hike is a body blow for struggling households. Every hike is a shock that is becoming harder and harder to absorb. So my question is straightforward, Taoiseach. Will you back our proposal for a time-limited mortgage relief and give homeowners the break that they so desperately need?
Thanks very much, Ceann Comhairle. Thank you for your question, Deputy. And just want to start by acknowledging the presence of a large number of third-year students from CBS School in Portlaoise in the visitor gallery today. All most welcome. Deputy, you mentioned evidence in relation to the housing crisis in your introductory remarks. And there is evidence today, real evidence, Deputy, of the kind of progress that we are now making when it comes to housing. Released by the CSO just in the last couple of hours, we know that the number of new dwellings, new homes built in the first quarter of this year is up nearly 20% on the first quarter of last year. 6,716 new homes built in the first 3 months of this year alone. I hope in your follow-up remark you'll acknowledge that a 20% increase in new homes being built this quarter versus last quarter is something that even somebody as mean-spirited as you should be able to acknowledge, Deputy, and I hope you will in your remarks. You can also acknowledge that there's been a 40% increase in the number of apartments built first quarter of this year versus last year. You may wish to acknowledge as well that the number of new apartments built is double what it was 3 years ago and 5 times what it was 5 years ago. And at a regional level, it's the southwest region, the Cork and Kerry region, that has seen the biggest increase. In relation to mortgages, Deputy, I understand that a lot of people are seeing big increases in their mortgage payments, particularly people who have tracker mortgages, receiving that letter in the post every couple of weeks at this stage from the bank, telling them that their mortgage has gone up. And somebody with a mortgage of maybe €250,000 has seen an increase of about €500 a month in their mortgage payment, and that's a lot of money, even for somebody on a good income. So I absolutely understand the impact that that's having on a lot of households. But tax measures are a matter for the budget. When it comes to the budget, we will consider all the different suggestions and ideas for tax concessions, and there will be a tax package in the budget, but it won't be possible to include everything in that tax package. And it is noteworthy that in your alternative budget, produced by Deputy Doherty, only back in September, you didn't include mortgage interest relief in that package, even though mortgage interest rates were going up at the time and the ECB signalled that there would be significant further rises. When you had to make choices, you chose not to include mortgage interest relief in your package. When it comes to September, October, when we have a budget to put together, there will be a tax package, and we will consider mortgage interest relief as part of that tax package, but we have to consider all the other proposals that come forward for tax relief too. And we also do need to bear in mind the context. Average mortgage rates in Ireland, which had been high by European standards, are now at the lower level by European standards. And we also need to bear in mind that we've had a very prolonged period of low interest rates, almost unprecedented in history. And you say the measure they're proposing is time-bound. But you don't say when it's time-bound for, because you can't predict that mortgage interest rates are going to go down again. We had a lot of people for a very long period of time who had the benefit of very low interest rates. And now interest rates are coming back up to something quite close to the historical average. And we need to be honest with people about that, Deputy, and not say that things are just time-bound. We can't guarantee people that interest rates are going to go back down to 1% again or 0% again. That mightn't happen.
So can I also extend a welcome to the lads from Portlaoise, Fáilte. You're all great to see you here. I'm glad that you do recognise, Taoiseach, that there has been a succession of hikes in mortgage interest rates. Some people are paying at a rate of 8%. There's further hikes in prospect. I'm sure you don't contest that. The ECB will meet Thursday week. And for mortgage holders that are now struggling, it is a matter of great fear and anxiety that they are going to see yet another hike. And the question then arises what to do about it. And your position, if I heard you correctly, is that mortgage holders are simply to sit tight until September or October. I want to put to you that that's a wholly unrealistic ask of households in the grip of a cost of living crisis, where we have the highest electricity costs across Europe, and where people, I'm sure you will know and acknowledge, are struggling. To simply say to them to sit tight and hold tight is not an acceptable response from government, Taoiseach. So I've asked you to support our proposal. It'll go to a vote this evening. If you're not going to support our proposal, what are you going to do now for thousands, tens of thousands of households that are struggling to pay their mortgage and who, according to Ceann Comhairle, to FLAC and to MABS, run the risk now of arrears, run the risk of real hardship? What's your answer if you don't like ours?
Taoiseach, please.
Deputy, my answer is twofold. In the last budget, it only kicked in January, there was a tax package that I fought hard for in the last budget. And that tax package resulted in income tax being reduced for 2 million people, including the vast majority of mortgage owners in this state. And your party voted against that. It's a simple fact that people in Ireland, workers in Ireland, would pay more income tax under Sinn Féin, that people would take home less pay under Pearse than they do under Paschal. You voted against that. You voted against that. People today would pay more income tax under Sinn Féin than they do under the current coalition. When it comes to the next budget, There will be a tax package. It'll be as generous as we can afford, but we will have to take into account all of the other suggestions that are put forward for tax concessions. It doesn't make sense, wouldn't be prudent and wouldn't be responsible for us to come into this House every month or every other month and make income tax changes. That's not the way you run a country. And I hope if you ever have the privilege to be Taoiseach, you don't run the country like that.
Now,